Good morning and welcome to Fort Mills Town Council regular meeting for Monday, September the 28th. If you're viewing online, thank you so much for joining us. We do publish our agenda prior to, and we welcome you as you join in to hear the town and its business. If you will, the council will stand and give a pledge of allegiance. And Ronnie, would you give our invocation? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, your mercy, your grace. We thank you for everything you do for us. We pray that you would be with us today. Give us the wisdom to conduct the town's business, and we give you the praise and glory for it all. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay. Council members, you have received the minutes for the September 14th, 2020 Town Council meeting. Do you have any changes, deletions, or additions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second. All those in favor, Larry, how do you vote? In favor. Jamie, how do you vote?
In favor.
Lisa, how do you vote? Approve. Ronnie, how do you vote? Chris Moody?
Approve.
Thank you. And Trudy is not with us today, and I also approve, so it's a unanimous decision. You've also been provided the minutes of the August 12th, 2020 Town Council Budget Workshop. Do I have any changes, deletions, or additions to this particular item? Okay, I've got a motion.
Second.
And I have a second. Chris Moody, how do you vote?
Approve.
Ron Helms?
Approve.
Lisa? Jamie?
Approve.
Mr. Huntley?
Approved.
And I also approve. Thank you for reviewing those minutes. Public comment. Pursuant to Section 246 of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill, any citizen of the town may appear before council for the purpose of providing public comments on any municipal matter except personnel matters. Those who wish to speak must sign in outside of council chambers prior to the start of the meeting. To maintain social distancing, citizens will only be allowed into council chambers one at a time to give their comments. We don't have any public comments. I will say that we do receive periodically communications via email asking questions of the town. I think that we have worked very diligently to make response to those and will continue to do so. If you're unable to come, we have provided everything we can for us to be here safely and for you to be here safely. So if you sent anything in, we will certainly respond and have taken everything that's sent to us into consideration. Thank you so much. Presentations. We have no presentations this morning, and we will begin with old business items. Old business item number 1, second reading of an ordinance to raise revenue by setting the tax millage for the town of Fort Mill, South Carolina for the tax year ending December 31st, 2020, and for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021. Shantae is with us this morning. Do I have a motion on this business item number 1?
Make a motion to accept business item number 1.
Mr. Showery has made a motion to accept.
Second.
And I have a second from Mr. Helms. Shantae, what do you have for us this morning?
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
There has been no change of this in this ordinance from first reading. It is an ordinance that has to be adopted by law, by council, setting our tax millage. This is the number that has been forwarded on to York County to be calculated in for the taxes for the town of Fort Mill for the tax year 2020.
Any questions for Shantae on the tax millage, on the tax millage business item number 1?
No questions, but just kind of a statement from this council in the past and discussions we've had, just that we actually are not raising taxes, but there is still an extreme need for us to consider that in the future. We've not done so for many, many years, and the price of bread keeps going up, the price of running this town keeps going up. So just something to consider as we come out of COVID, hopefully next year, in next year's budget, that we look at something to do small, steady steps to get us back in line where we need to be.
And I do think for those listening, Lisa, thank you, because I agree. We've mentioned a multitude of times that the town's needs grow with, just like your own household budget grows every year. We haven't had an opportunity to see very many things that are less expensive than they once were. And we do support our employees and want to give them a livable wage and help that. So moving forward, when we're not in a pandemic, you know, a tax discussion must be held. It's not a can, we will, we must have one. I think it's prudent action on our part to recognize the seriousness of the pandemic, and we're doing what we can to ensure that we're not placing undue burden on anyone. But yet everyone still would expect the services that they have long enjoyed from the town. So I agree with you 100%. So thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, the motion on the table is to approve old business item number 1. We do have a second. Mr. Huntley, how do you vote?
Vote in favor.
Mr. Wiley?
In favor.
Ms. Cook?
In favor?
Mr. Helms?
In favor.
Mr. Moody?
Approve.
And I also approve, so that's another unanimous. Thank you. For the votes that we have that are unanimous for our audience, we do speak with one another about questions we have and ask staff in advance of our meetings. So there is work that does happen prior to our sitting here and making the decisions. Old business item number 2, and Shante, thank you. Old business item number 2, second reading of an ordinance to adopt the budget of the town of Fort Mill, South Carolina for the fiscal year beginning October the 1st, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
A motion and a second. Shante, what do you have for us?
Yes, ma'am. Again, this is another ordinance that requires council adoption. All of our funds that have come before you to be considered for the FY 2021 year, total combined $79,468,117. On adoption of this ordinance, those budgets will be what we will operate from beginning October 1, 2020.
I think it's prudent to once again mention that this particular budget item is unique because of the pandemic. We have, as a town and staff, taken a look at what can we defer, delay, wait a little longer on, sacrificing at times things that would make it a little bit easier for us to make sure that we understand where our revenues are going to be towards the end of the year when those come in, and note the impacts that the pandemic may have had on the monies that we could spend going forward. We have a long history of paying our bills. I'm very happy about that, and Shante, hats off for the financial situation that we're blessed to be in, and all of staff for managing their money wisely. I think we're enviable by most community standards, and I know that doesn't happen without a lot of work behind it. We do have, however, as we look, a lot of information in regards to what we do budget and what we don't budget. And I know that we're going to take, as a council and staff, 6 months, and we're going to review in detail how things are going and spend probably the first time since I've served in the town in 16 years, we're going to spend a little bit more time looking in depth. We usually, by law, are required to review and approve a budget annually, and we do that. I think this is going to be, certainly it's disappointing not to be able to move forward because of the pandemic. It seems like every day has a disappointment these days. But I do think it's critical, that we take that time and use it wisely to improve what we do and how we do it. With that, do we have questions, comments? I see some tabs on notebooks over here, so go ahead.
So thank you for the book that you guys put together this year. 100% improvement. Very nice, well done. So I love the new format, and hopefully this is coming from all the hard work you guys have put into the new Tyler system and all. A couple of questions I do have. Yes, I have a few orange tabs. I know typically, Shante, you don't normally do large purchases until after we start receiving property taxes, January, February timeframe. We've got roughly $2 million, $1.5 million, and some pretty large purchases that are needed that we felt like could not be pared back. But will we still be waiting until that time to do it? So on here, we've got almost about $750,000, I think, in vehicles.
Yes,
So what's kind of the timing of a lot of these big purchases? $500,000 on, a CAD enterprise project that's much needed for IT, but what's timing for those?
With or without COVID, we still will wait until after the property taxes started to roll in. A good majority of those items that you see there are actually going to be paid for out of our fund balance. There is a fund balance appropriation there, or out of our savings to take care of a number of those vehicles. But for the most part, they will actually start to make those purchases as cautiously as possible, realizing that there is a need for them. But we will work closely with the department heads on when those purchases need to be triggered.
Okay. I would just request that council kind of be kept updated on some of these large ones that we have on there, specifically as, the unknown is in front of us, financially. Again, I know y'all have done a great job paring this down as much as possible, but I'm also concerned about where things are going to go, the next few months. So, that would be a request I would have. So that being said, next thing, just a couple, and these were a couple that stood out to me again since we just got the book last meeting and trying to update. I noticed municipal court was one of the only ones where material and supplies went up, and it went up pretty significantly. Is there a reason? I know they've had a delay in court hearings, and we'll be talking about that later on today. But is that the reason? Is this just a shift of COVID expenses from 2020 to 2021?
That would be my estimation on that, Ms. Cook. Because court was shut down again mid-March. They've actually spent no funding out of this budget year since that point. So
That's some cash up
that we have now that has backlogged. There will be a need to spend more money to cover those to make up for this.
So double up in the amount of work they're doing, but also the budget shifted to help cover that doubling. Okay, perfect, just making sure. I did notice on streets that you had equipment repairs, had a significant 50% increase on that. Can we anticipate needing a new piece of equipment before too long with such an increase in repairs coming?
The maintenance repairs?
Yeah, it just says equipment repairs.
page.
There are no page numbers.
Okay.
And
So it's under street, second page.
Okay.
yes, anytime we add more money to an equipment repair line item, we either over budget in the current year based on that. And it's the age, taking into consideration the age of the equipment, the amount of equipment you have out working, and the projected projects that you have over the next year. And we would rather be a little safe in that category and put money there and not spend it rather than not budget enough, and then we have a lot of problems with our equipment and not be able to fix them. Yeah. So any kind of equipment repairs line item is a hit or miss item anyway, because you can never really tell.
Yeah, I was just kind of surprised. Current year, actual is 7,000. Budgeted for 2020, 35, and now for 2021, we're doing 52. So to go from, we're spending 7 to 52 is a huge change.
Right.
To your point, I understand if we've got a piece of equipment, we're, Band-Aiding to get through until we can buy something new. So it just seems like a significant increase.
But we may need.
And we have more stuff to fix. We've been buying a lot of stuff for them guys, so.
Yeah.
And it is cyclical. I remember from the 16 years that, you know, we do repairs or a piece here and hold it down, but there are years that we spend a significant amount of money to make replacement for the right reason. So I get that.
Yeah, and you've done a good job both in your previous role and this one of making the most of the equipment we had, not buying new if it didn't make sense to buy new and saving. I also don't want a Band-Aid if the cost of Band-Aid is more than buying a replacement piece. On the non-departmental tab of it, and Shantae, this may be more you, but maybe Davey, unemployment claims this year, 2020, 0. Budgeted was 10,000, but we went to 20,000 for 2021. I'm sure there's a reason.
Yes, ma'am. COVID has something to do with this, but we have begun to see more unemployment claims coming to the town because people are out of work. They are out of work and they work for us in any capacity. We have an obligation to pay a portion of the unemployment.
Okay.
So this would be contract labor.
No, ma'am.
Our own employees?
Previous employees.
Previous employees.
Yes, that's the,
If they worked for us at any given time,
During the year.
and they go away, let's say somebody went to another job,
Mm-hmm.
COVID caused them to get laid off,
Mm-hmm.
we still share in that mix in terms of unemployment compensation for that employee.
Well, I guess I didn't know we continued to contribute.
Yes.
So would that have the restriction of having that person had to have been employed in that fiscal year? Or how long-term is that?
Any time that they have been with us, they take the time frame that they have been with us, and they have a formula that they use, and then a percentage of whatever that person may be able to draw is on us to pay.
That's bizarre.
yes,
That's the.
I'm sorry, but that's bizarre. So Davey and I worked for Duke.
right.
Does that mean at some point in time, if you and I were unemployed, that they would still be contributing to what we would draw from unemployment?
That is correct. Now, I don't know
Goodness.
the time frame, but we have experience
Did you know that?
previous employees from
I
2 years.
We've
We're
had
still-
4 of them already this year.
Dang.
And then we asked the question, but that's the unemployment laws. So we're just
You
following.
might as well assign them from birth then, you know? I don't understand that in the least.
There is a time frame that they go by,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not sure what that is, but that's all, addressed in the law in terms of how we have to do that. But the, folks who administer that for us, there's a formula that is used.
I'm sure we're doing it right. I'm not
Yeah.
questioning that. It's just,
I don't think that if you were here in 1976 and now you're unemployed, I don't think we have any obligations there. I believe there is a time frame. I just can't tell you what that is.
The last 10 years or
thank
something.
you.
Right.
Yeah, I will tell you, what
Wow.
I've been through with furlough and unemployment, there's,
Yeah. They're tight with the
challenging.
money occasionally.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to quit this, do I?
You have more questions?
No, that was all. Thank you. I appreciate it. Again, thank you for the thoroughness. I would like to ask for us next year. I know we've got kind of a calendar in here that you guys were working from. Maybe next year, can we try to get the notebook in the August timeframe so that we're working from that as much as possible, knowing that it may need to get edited. This was a very easy way to go through and just see where money was, where significant changes. I know it has to be tweaked. I know it's not final, but just having a draft version is helpful.
To be honest with you, this is a new product that we are trying, and it was not ready for us to use during the
Perfect.
August.
I'm with Councilman Cook. This kudos on the format. Oh my goodness, it's day and night difference.
Yeah.
Day and night difference. So I know it's hard for me to transition to new forms and new programs. I'm old and it doesn't come easy to me anymore. So thank you for the effort. I'm in hopes that we'll have a little more time with this level in the coming year, or maybe by March. But
Yeah.
it's really good. It's
still
way
a work
better.
in progress, but we were proud of what we could get out.
Way, way better.
And
Thank
it
you.
will always be. I mean, yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, our money kind of ebbs and flows depending on it. But I would love to see this you know, whether, when you do your regular updates for us that we used to get, I think, quarterly, I'd love to see it, not necessarily, I don't think you have to have all the graphs, but the way you've got it broken down, the changes, you know, being able to add in current year and where we stand is huge. So, again, great job, great find for this program.
Not too here to digest, because of all the jobs that we have to do, the budget is the one that we are on the hook for by the state and everybody else. So if we don't get it right, we can get in big trouble for it, so. And I just wanted to add too, if it wasn't for the conservative nature of the town and the great work that the staff does during this, we wouldn't be as fiscally sound as we are right now,
Oh, yeah.
dealing with this scenario that we're all in. We're trying to still support all the people that we can support, but we're still trying to support everyone that we have supported over the years. And there may be a difference in budgeting as they see the money being trickled through. It's not that we have suddenly cut ties with anyone. It's just, again, we're trying to be on the conservative side to make sure that we still have monies to operate as a town. And as the mayor stated earlier, once we come halfway through this cycle and things may change, they may get better, I hope, so we can revisit all the obligations that we had set prior to this year's budget cycle. Thank you very much for all the great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to staff. Any other comments? Okay, the motion on the table is to approve old business item number 2. Hearing no further comments, Mr. Huntley, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
In favor. Jamie?
In favor?
Lisa Cook?
In favor?
Ronnie Helms?
In favor.
Chris Moody?
Approved.
And I also will vote to approve. Again, staff, thank you for the hard work that goes into this. Old business item number 3, first reading, public hearing, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill, Chapter 2, Administrative, or Article 4, Finance and Taxation, Division 4, Development Impact Fees, so as to revise the development impact fee discount rates for the town. Chris Pettit is our expert on this. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shirley. We need to do public hearing first.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to let the public hearing take place at this time. We're checking to ensure there's no one outside waiting. Okay, we do not have any public comment. We will end the public comment session for old business item number 3. Now I'll entertain that motion, Mr.
I make a
Shirley.
motion to accept old business item number 3.
Thank you. I need a second. I have a second from Councilman Helms. Mr. Pettit, are you able to join us virtually?
Yes, Mayor, I am here.
All right. What do you have for us this morning?
Yes, Mayor. In response to COVID's impact on business, council asked staff to use our impact fee discount rates to try and get our current fees, our current impact fees, as close as possible to what they were prior to our recent required 5-year update. As we've discussed at previous meetings, because of the methodology and the way our fees are calculated, there's no way to get our fees exactly at the level that they were. But what staff has done is we've created a methodology to try and get our fees as close as they were. So staff projected out what we see as the most likely commercial development to come in the next several years. And we've created a weighted average to try and get those fees as close as they were to 2015 fees. And in that calculation, staff came up with a discount rate of 51% for fire and 56% for municipal facilities. Staff did not study the Parks and Rec impact fee because it does not impact commercial business. It only impacts residential properties. At your last meeting, the request was made for staff to go through and try and determine what some of our neighboring jurisdictions have as their impact fees and compare what staff is proposing to those fees. So staff went back and has pulled a number of neighboring jurisdictions and statewide jurisdictions that have similar fee setups as the town of Fort Mill, and we provided those to you in your packet. as you will kind of see, the differences are kind of across the board. We're higher in some fees and we're lower in some fees than most all other jurisdictions. And really that's to do with the methodologies of each municipality has different variables that they're inputting and different ways of thinking about these impact fees. So they're all calculated slightly differently. In no way is wrong or right. It's just you have to go by a solid methodology when you're calculating impact fees, and everybody's kind of different in their thinking. So we did provide 2 neighboring jurisdictions in the city of Rock Hill comparing our impact fees to their impact fees. They have a fire impact fee like we do, so we compared those. The city of TGK has impact fees very similar to ours. They have parks and recreation, fire, and police, which their police is similar to our municipal facilities. And then statewide, we compared to the town of Somerville and the town of Mount Pleasant, both of which had impact fee categories very similar to ours or exactly like ours. So we've provided a slew of projects and shown how those fees for the town of Fort Mill would line up with those similar projects in those various jurisdictions. And I'm happy to go into a little more detail on any of those if you have any specific questions. But again, staff's calculated what we feel is the most similar fees to what they previously were, and that would be 51% discount rate on fire, 56% discount rate for municipal facilities. And again, for parks and recreation, staff did not study that because it only impacts residential. So the way the ordinance that is before you this morning for first reading is drafted, parks and recreation stays at 10%, fire is listed at 51%, and municipal facilities is listed at 56%. Aside from that, the only change that's been made since your previous meeting is the alteration of the effective date of the ordinance. Again, staff does need some time to communicate with developers and to communicate internally to make sure that we have enough time to implement whatever council's desire is on this ordinance. So we've amended that based off discussion of the previous meeting to be 30 days following council approval. That'll give staff plenty of time to communicate out with developers, make sure they're aware of the changes, and to amend our internal documents so that we can correctly implement the new fees. And with that, happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a ridiculous question, but it's not unheard of for me to ask. The first time we were presented the impact fees, if council had voted to make no change, and we went into the review process, would we have been required to make changes based on the review and the criteria of the program that would have put us in the same position we're in now?
Yes, Mayor. There really was no way that we could have entered into a 5-year update and come out with the exact same fees. There's a lot of work that the state outlines kind of your methodology that you have to go off of, and there's just really no way that we could have ended up with the exact same fees or had no change in that required 5-year update.
I think that is so critical for our community to understand, because I don't know that we've ever said it that clearly before. Any of the programs that we administer, because we are a taxing administration, must be regulated and come to us with all sorts of criteria and rules and guidelines and restrictions that whereas we might get to vote on it, oftentimes, like stormwater fees, we don't get to construct the order. So I think that's important to note. I did read one question about stormwater fees. I've read a question about impact fees. I think it's critical that even though we're sitting before our community and we're voting on approval or non-approval or asking questions, and we make changes when we can, there are a tremendous number of things we can't change based on the government allowing us, both state and federal, to administer programs where we collect taxes. So I do think that's important on this particular item, that even if we had voted the first time to make no increase, the review process that is required would have resulted in changes to those fees, some less, some more. So I do want that to be noted as we have this particular meeting for approval. Any questions?
Again, just comment, and Mr. Pettit, thank you for the different scenarios you provided us and given us a template where we could manage the numbers and play with it. I do agree that what you came up with the 51 and 56% discount is pretty darn close to what we had before. Played with the numbers, and again, you can go to 50 or 60, but I do think that the numbers you ended up with were about as close as we could get. It is interesting to have the new data from the other municipalities around us. And as we move forward, I think particularly the next time we start looking at this, maybe a year earlier than, right when it's time to make a decision, you and really think by the different impact fees and what we gained or may have been had an advantage. So thank you for the work that you've done. I know you've done several calls with me, walking you through some of this, so thank you for the work.
So will we revisit this in 6 months when we revisit the millage and budget?
You can revisit the impact fee discount rates at any time. It just does have to be done by ordinance, so you have to have multiple readings of it, but you can certainly review these as often as you would like.
Yeah, I would like to do that when we revisit the budget in March.
We can do that. We can do that, or before if needed. All right. With that, the motion on the table for old business item number 3 is to approve this motion, and we do have a second. Mr. Huntley, how do you vote?
Approved.
Mr. Shirey, how do you vote?
Approved.
Ms. Cook? Approved. Ronnie Helms?
Approved.
Chris Moody?
Approved.
And I also will approve. Thank you so much for the hard work on this. I know that it's a complicated process and it requires a lot of attention. Thank you. New business items. New business item number 1, an emergency ordinance extending prior temporary measures for town council and other appointed board and commission members to participate in meetings electronically during the COVID-19 emergency. Chris Pettit is our expert on that particular ordinance. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept new business item number 1.
I have a motion from Mr. Shirey and a second from Mr. Helms. I don't think this really requires a whole lot of discussion, but we're open. What you got? Nothing? Mr. Moody, how do you vote?
Approved.
Mr. Helms?
Approved.
Ms. Cook? Approved. Mr. Shirey?
Approved.
Mr. Huntley? Approved. And I also approve. So, great. New business item number 2, consideration of partnership request from Fort Mill Economic Partners. Our expert is Davy Broom. Do I have a motion on this particular item?
I make a motion we approve new business item number 2.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Davy, would you like to cover where we are?
Yeah, so Fort Mill Economic Partners have been working with the town for quite a few years now, trying to provide opportunities to do projects for the town, to partner with the town. Last year they approached you to become partners that they and look for ways again to do more projects. And so over the past year they have spent a lot of time with the town. We've had several meetings with them. They've provided us a list, which I think you all have, of their accomplishments over the past year and the work that they've put in to move some things forward economically for the town, and that benefits the town of Fort Mill. So they have reapproached us again this year in hopes of partnering again and continuing that partnership on projects that we have in store over the 2020-2021 budget year. So again, they presented what they accomplished over this past year, and I'll be glad to answer any of those questions if you have anything on those.
If you would, since there are people listening, I'm sure, that have not seen this list. In my eyes, what is the importance of having an economic development partner in our community like other communities? Right now, currently, on town staff, we do not employ an Economic Development Manager, which would be a person that would work with businesses that are considering our community for their home, or those that are currently in our community, for what we can do to be supportive. It is critical in our operation that we have good businesses, both for employment and we're very fortunate that we see tax monies coming from business and industry that locate in our town. Every community would like to have a vibrant business district, and I think we're very fortunate to have such. This particular partnership has evolved over many years, and I personally think they're moving in a direction that is extremely positive in acquiring those relationships and setting the ground to bring businesses to Fort Mill. I think that is a long-term process. I don't think it happens overnight. I certainly would like to see statistically, some information on how the new businesses got here and which ones might come and where we're headed with that. But in the past 12 months, just to hit some of the highlights, not all, but the Fort Mill Economic Development Partnership developed a Strawberry Sprint and Stroll 5K run. Unfortunately, that was to coincide and supplement our Strawberry Festival. That was postponed. I know they spent money and did a lot of work to get that. They worked with us on route and how that might work. They solicited corporate sponsors for that event so that they could supplement and not take from their own monies to do so. They secured a partnership with Winthrop University, which is near and dear to my heart. We don't have a university or a college in Fort Mill, and reaching out to Winthrop to get their buy-in for resources on economics and provide some information and background that we don't have. I think that's really interesting. They made a connection between Winthrop and the Ann Springs Close Greenway to study the economic impact of the Greenway. That is a huge project, by the way, that is already underway. They are looking at, and also near and dear to my heart, we'd love to have a graduate satellite program here in Fort Mill from Winthrop. That would be really nice for Fort Mill. They too reviewed the municipal impact fee increase, did some research, and contacted us on asking us to re-review it, and I'm grateful for that. Traffic impact analysis status because of COVID-related school closures. They work to ensure that other businesses have that type of information, that they might not readily have access to it. They've gone to other communities. I know they did one this year to look at how that community does the work with their businesses and in their community. They've worked on wayfinder signs. They've produced COVID resource videos at the height of the business closures for small business assistance, gig economy, whatever that is, hospitality worker assistance programs, phase 3 federal stimulus, essential versus non-essential. So they are a carrier of information and a location for our businesses to get information they might not otherwise be aware of. They have a very comprehensive website that they maintain. It has commercial real estate searchable listings. I could go on and on about, the information flow and the many businesses that contribute and work with the economic partnership. I do know times are hard, and I do know that, again, this is a fledgling effort currently as they are working towards their mission, and we unfortunately are in the same straits of having to cut back because of COVID. So, Council, my need is for you to express your questions and thoughts on how we move forward. Last year, we funded $10,000 to help ensure that they remain solvent as a business, an effort in our community. What say you, Council? Because I don't want to be the only one talking.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from some of those that attend the meetings regularly or part of the group.
Jamie and Mr. Huntley are the council members that have attended the Economic Development Partnership meetings.
I've been on it since its inception. I was on the, move Fort Mill forward,
Right.
which no matter how you say that, comes out Fort Mill forward. Matter of fact, I was a volunteer in the caboose down there. And, I've been very excited about the way they're progressing. When they got started, it was a farmer's market out here in the First Baptist Church parking lot, that was it. Now it's more of a business-oriented organization. And a lot of businesses are represented, and they also are sponsorships, just like they're requesting.
Speaking of that, one of the items I didn't mean to skip over, but they have conducted recently a survey of our downtown businesses, and they are preparing at this point, since they've received an 81% response, which is very good in terms of response rates. They're getting ready to meet with those businesses and discuss the questions, concerns, and ideas, and then we will get a copy of everything that was produced so that we too can see that. And that does take a burden off of us.
Yeah.
You know, it certainly does. So an avenue and an outlet for information.
I haven't been involved with them as long as Larry has, but the time I have been with them, they have grown leaps and bounds, not only in recruitment of spectacular people who want to be involved with the community and are invested in the community, be it the Greenway, some of the banks around here, some of the other local businesses have now partnered with them and are sitting in the meetings with them. Their willingness to reach out into the community and find their path. I think they're still trying to find their path, as we are, and we're trying to figure out how we can work together as them being an extension of us without being part of us. There's a fine line we have to walk with that, just how their organization is set up there. We don't want to have a commingling of it. We'd like to keep them operating independently where they could be more of a benefit. I think that they still haven't hit their full potential yet. I don't think that we have looked at the advantages that they could bring us and looking at all the facets that they could fill for us where we don't have to take it on, especially doing these studies. That's a daunting task. I've pulled a couple of those together, and it's just, they don't seem like they ever end. So for someone who's willing to take that on themselves, that alone is worth it for me. I know that they have nothing but the best intentions for the town. As I said, a lot of them are invested in the town and want it to succeed. So I think by being a first touch to new businesses and industries and telling them about Fort Mill and telling them the advantage that we are, so then the town can step in and then do the 3-point sale, three-touch sale, as to how, I forget the exact terminology. I think that would be a very great fit for them. I also think that they, as in the business side, bringing more people into our downtown area to participate with everything, like the walk or the run and walk that they try to put on. Unfortunately, with this COVID thing, that kind of heated out a little bit, but I think having events like that not only brings the community in so that they can participate with what's happening downtown, but bringing new people into the area to show them how awesome we are. And we're pretty awesome. We're a great little town. I love our little town. I think that, again, I think they have a little bit more growing to do as we do. I would like for us to continue on with the support, maybe not at the level that we did, as I stated earlier with the COVID thing. We're playing it very tight. We don't want to go bankrupt, trying to bankrupt ourselves, helping everyone else. So maybe revisit what it is, and then 6 months later, if everything comes back, then we can revisit it again. And not only them, but the other organizations that we support throughout the year.
I had initially felt exactly what you just said, that, maybe we need to look at the amount because we're not funding some of our very own programs. However, in some thoughtful time last evening, I also consider that, they're there for us to make requests to, and they're eager to perform those tasks. Some of them, we will look at as contract work. But in other areas, it's also difficult for me to see us hiring someone on staff to make those business contacts, provide that information that is provided to them, that is something they need within our community for $10,000 a year. There's no way. There's not a way that we could get anyone to do that work. I too, like Jamie, think both the town is working on how do we make this work best for the taxpayer and the community. And I think that the economic partner group is evolving into something that's closer than it ever has been to doing the work that is needed. I'm okay supporting that we do one more year at the 10,000 level.
Question on the Strawberry Sprint that they did, the organizing for, the profits from that, was that going to Economic Council, partnership?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just want to be sure they're looking for ways of funding themselves as well. So, and at the same time, it brought people,
yes,
could have brought people here too.
Yes.
So it did both.
And let's not forget the basics of, some of the work they've done. I don't know if it was the Bailey bill, but, they have provided contribution to some of the programs we have for enhancements on Main Street. They're always active in our planning for the Strawberry Festival and the efforts, that we have. I find them to be a good resource to ask questions about TIAs and things that affect businesses. I think it's a hard comparative analysis to say we spend this much, we get this, because I think we're still in a very young phase of what does that look like. But again, it came down simply to me, could we hire someone to keep those businesses in touch with one another and keep the information flow to those businesses that's required for them to remain healthy in our economy in this town for $10,000. We can't hire somebody for that.
No, and I think as we continue to evolve with our communication planning and working to get a better message out, they help make sure that gap is there for our businesses the way we need to. I am in favor of it, but a couple of concerns I have is there's not an actual proposal in our packet for us to vote on. It just says continued partnership. So I'm assuming it's still at just the 10 grand, but there's nothing in our packet that says what we're going to get for it. So I'd love to have a little bit more meat within, a certain time frame, 30 days, 60 days, that says.
Might have to do that in arrears because I know they're in the same place we are on getting their budgets and knowing whether they can keep the people employed they employ or not.
And I understand that, and that would be my ask, is that we come up with a few, even if it's just 2 per quarter, but something.
I hear where you're coming from because I think every contractual agreement we have with someone to provide services, we should be able to see data that supports the expenditure, not because it's coming out of just my pocket, but we're taking it out of everybody's pocket to pay for it. So I think that would be interesting. I'd like to see statistics on how many businesses have come to Fort Mill, how many are thinking about Fort Mill, what space is available, those types of things. And we get a lot of that verbally, but I do think becoming more organized in how we convey that would probably be helpful for both entities.
As a council, I would have rather seen this quarterly, twice a year, something.
We can ask for that.
I will say part of them, the number 15, their monthly meetings with multiple partners, that means a lot, and there is a value to that, even though it may not bring specific revenue. It's that communication piece. So there's definitely value to what they bring for us.
If nothing else, it's a reminder of our coexistence in the same space and the need. I will tell you, having worked for a large corporation before that was very philanthropic and very involved in the community, there has to be a reminder, even in hard times. Our businesses are a major part of our community, and we do need to, garner their support and their help with projects and items that are important to the community as a whole.
Building that relationship with Winthrop is something I definitely want us to leverage a lot more. We have a lot of large projects that we've been trying to kick off the ground, and I think having Winthrop's eye on it, having this group could definitely help us with
a win-win.
A lot of what we do. I agree.
It's a win-win.
I'd like to see us leverage it more.
Great for those.
I think as a town too, our side of that equation, we need to come up with a hit list of projects that we can lean on. I mean, to throw all that at their feet and then expect them to give us some kind of feedback as to this is what we accomplished, and then, but it's not what we wanted, but we never told them what we wanted. So, I mean, it's kind of like I said, we're growing together, both entities, so it's going to be a two-way street for a little bit. And Winthrop was a great win for them. And Carowinds, the Greenway, I mean, not to toot their horn for them, but they're doing a phenomenal job bringing in a lot of the heavy hitters in our community that, and I say a heavy hitter, a lot of the entities that a lot of our constituents use and enjoy and go to. And so I think it's, as we grow together, I think it's going to be a benefit to everyone to maintain that relationship.
And the level of professionalism when they have presented to us is very professional. It's
they can do
very
a
thorough.
presentation.
It looks great. They got it all. So I look forward to a continued partnership with them. To your point, growing together and what the needs are for us, for them, for us all.
So, in keeping with the constraints, I don't believe we had a proposal previous when we made the decision in the previous council, where we made the decision to do that funding level. We probably can do that going forward, but just based on the need for us to get our budget straight and their budget straight, I'm looking for a motion, or I'll make the proposal that we continue one more year at the level that we had last year.
In their request, they have a dollar amount?
No.
No. They'd certainly take anything we were able to give them.
Okay.
And they do understand the need to restrict funding because of COVID. But I think in a way, there's no more important time for us to keep our businesses in touch.
I wonder if we can develop these master really cheap.
The muffler, take the muffler off.
Really cheaping me out. I'm tired of it already. Maybe if we could set up some kind of a matrix as we did with the H-tax, A-tax, and just kind of a generic model as to, okay, did we hit this, did we hit that type scenario, as we did with the money that we allotted at the last meeting for the museum and the other, and I forget what was the other one we did. The two of them that we gave money to.
From
Narrowway?
Narrowway, yeah, right. You know, we have that scenario or the matrix that they hit to make sure that they're doing what or the state requires to. So maybe we can set up something like that here for them.
I definitely think we have to do something like that, because be it known openly, we didn't include any increases in our salaries for our staff. No cost of living, no bonus, no movement at all, because the times we're in. But I do think this is a relatively small marker in our budget as a whole for a service that I do think is important. So I'm kind of making a motion that we.
Can I ask a very quick question?
What
was the dollar amount last year that we provided?
10,000.
10,000. I thought that's what you said. I just wanted to verify.
Of course.
I would second your motion to continue on the 10,000 per year.
Reviewable every year.
Yes.
Reviewable every year.
A defined actual proposal in front of us.
Okay.
So I would second.
Yes, so I've got a motion and a second to move forward at the same level that we did in 2019.
Correct.
Shantae, do you have a comment?
Yes, a question.
Yes,
I'm assuming that this is relative to the 2021 budget.
Mr. Hunt, how do you vote on the motion to support continued level, at the same level of 10,000 for the next year? Okay, Jamie?
Approved.
Lisa?
Approved.
Ronnie?
Approved.
Chris Moody?
Approve.
And I also will approve. Thank you for the effort to consider this. And Jamie, I'd like to see you take the lead for council in determining how best for us to bolster our side of this relationship to be more specific with the activities that we need to see from that. Can you take on that responsibility?
Yes, I can do that. I probably want to talk to each of you at different times, just
Great.
so I can get everybody's ideas, and then I'll.
And
compile
Davey,
it all
do you,
together.
I'm sorry, I didn't, Davey, do you attend for staff's viewpoint,
He
or
does.
is there someone else? You
He
do,
and,
don't you?
he and I
Okay,
both
perfect.
attend once a month to a meeting with their executive committee.
Okay.
And it's always, there's always a prepared agenda. There's always items to discuss. I think, to Jamie's point, though, we need to do work on our side.
Yep.
We need to do work on our side to be specific. And this is something that it's an extension of this conversation that we're having, or discussion we're having, not on the agenda, but I would like to see us revisit our committee structure. We have committees that are standard for every municipality, but I'm not sure that they fit the needs of ours. I would rather see council's efforts and staff's efforts very targeted on the things that we know will make a difference for us and our community. So perhaps we can take a look at that, and this would be one of those committees, and we could have Jamie get committee members, and we'd be open and transparent with the discussions we have. But I do think it would give us a little bit more focus on each of the things and areas that we need to improve upon. Okay. All right. We'll now move into information and discussion. Discussion item number 1, 2021 Winter Parks and Rec Youth Sports Basketball Plan. Brown Simpson.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council.
Good morning.
All right. Well, staff and I met, and we wanted to put a plan together for our winter basketball season. Due to COVID, there's going to be some changes. In the past, we've been able to utilize some of the school facilities as far as the elementary and middle school gyms. And right now, we are not going to be able to utilize those facilities due to the school district's phase-in approach. And I think after talking to some of their staff, that is going to be one of the last phase-ins they do when they open back up some of their indoor facilities. So we put together a plan in order to serve as many participants as we can. We broke it down into 3 different areas. We looked at structure first, and then we looked at a calendar on how we could do it. And then also, too, finally, probably the most important would be the safety guidelines on how we could safely do that program, just like we're doing our fall sports at this time. First of all, from the structure standpoint, we're going to have 2 basketball seasons between November and mid-March. We did look at the school calendar and try to play that into that piece of it also, too, because school this year will not get out until around June 18th, so we can start our spring sports seasons a little bit late and work on into that June time frame. We're going to be utilizing 2 facilities, the Fort Mill Community Center, the old Bank Street Gym, and also the YMCA at the complex. We're going to play a total of 9 games. We usually have 8 regular season games and a postseason tournament. We decided just to do 9 regular season games to make sure that everybody gets the same amount of games. We're going to be serving about 280 participants per season. That's going to be 560 total. And of course, the ages are 7 to 15 for boys and 7 to 12 for girls leagues. When we go down next to the calendar, we're going to have a winter season 1 and then a winter season 2. The winter season 1 will start practices the week of November the 16th and run through December the 3rd. And our games will begin on December the 4th. We'll have 5 games between that time frame and the 19th before we break for Christmas. And then our final 4 games will be between January the 4th and January the 16th. We will leave a makeup or buffer week and during that winter season 1 in case we have to deal with any type of situations that might come up during the season. The winter season 2 will start right after that. Game practices will start on January the 25th and run through February the 7th. And then our games will be from February the 8th through March the 11th. We did show you in that handout that we gave you, we will have a spring co-ed season also too. We've had a spring co-ed season in the past, and that will be part of our spring sports. The biggest thing I think too is our safety guidelines. We're going to require masks to be required at all times for spectators and coaches. We'll ask our participants to wear a mask in once they come in the gym. They start their practices. We'll ask them they can take their mask off at that time. We're going to leave a buffer time of 15 minutes between game times, end of game times, and when we start the new one, so we can clear the gym and get people in and out safely. And also, we've asked continue to send out safety guidelines to our spectators and also to our participants. We'll have staff and hand sanitizing stations located at the front doors. One thing we're going to do at the complex is we're going to use the back doors of the gym at the Y as our main entrance. We'll have a table there. We'll have a staff person there that will monitor that. And just some of the other safety guidelines. One of the biggest ones is basketballs will be sanitized after every game or practice. And just some of the other protocols that we've already put in as far as no handshakes, high fives, things like that. And of course, social distancing is going to be important. So we think that we put a good plan together. I will tell you that we usually serve around 1,100 kids during the winter basketball season. This is only going to be able to serve about half of those. This could change if the school district changes any of their guidelines as far as renting their facilities and letting us use some of those facilities. And we understand why they're doing what they're doing, but we feel like this is a good plan that we put together. I want to thank our staff for working hard, our program guys, Ryan and Kevin and Justin for helping put this together. And I'll be glad to entertain any questions if anybody has any at this time.
I don't have a question, but I do think that this is one of your better presentations in completeness of looking how can we shape the offerings of the town in recreation in a time of COVID. You've covered everything that I think this council wanted to hear in regards to safety, use of our own facilities, and reasons that we won't have expanded opportunities, but you found a way to mitigate the loss of the gym space. So I'm very pleased with the completeness of your work. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You're gonna
Ask off.
If we're only gonna do half of the participants, how are you gonna create the teams? If we get 1,100 people that sign up for it and we're only gonna take half of them, are you just gonna do a random lottery drawing, or how, first come, first serve? How are you gonna set that up?
Yes. What we're going to do, Mr. Showery, is we're going to allow that participant to sign up with one of those seasons. They can't play during both seasons. We're going to make sure that they can only sign up for one of them. So that's the way we're going to handle that side. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to play that wants to play.
And then I saw today that the elementary schools are actually going back full time. So just continue your conversation with the school, because every day they've got a little bit more that they're doing there in their facilities.
Yes, sir, we will. We've got a good open line of communication with the school district, and we will continue to monitor that situation.
And we'll have a wait list for those that don't make it in case we do get an extra gym space and can expand the program, correct?
Yes, ma'am, we will. We will.
Okay. Brian, why are we not doing 11 to 12-year-old girls season on the first season 1, but we are on the second?
That's a great question. We looked at our history. One of the reasons we held out on the 11 and 12 girls season in that first season is because you're going to have a lot of 12-year-olds that might play in that 7th or 8th grade basketball. And our lowest numbers in the girls divisions last year was in that 11 and 12-year-old girls season. I think it was 4 to 6 teams in that division. So we decided just to put their division in that second season and winter season 2, So if any of those girls want to try out for the middle school teams, especially that 12-year-old child that might be in the 7th grade, they make that team, then they can just go ahead and play with that school team.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the girls that don't make the team and them having something to do to make sure we're engaging with them. You know, I think of my own daughter who has tried her stint in basketball, but definitely won't make a middle school team, having something to do. So I just want to be sure we've got that opportunity
Yes, ma'am.
for them. Yeah, I'm concerned, again, somebody who doesn't make a middle school team at that 12 to 13-year-old playing in a co-ed game. If you're not making a middle school team, you're going to be intimidated playing with a bunch of guys, I would think. So I want to be sure we're not losing middle school girls that, you know, really could use some other activities to do. So if there's a way we can try to
Okay.
I do think that brings up a comment that I've made a multitude of times. Our municipal responsibility to provide recreation within our community is often to those that are not on travel teams and on school teams. And I do think it's critically important that we can provide outlets for kids that really want to participate and get the discipline and the camaraderie that comes with participating in sports, but may not be able to do either of the elevated levels. So I'm always going to be supportive of recreation in our community.
And Brian, maybe we could do a survey of that age group too. Yeah, I don't know, work with the middle schools on it. So couple other real quick questions. So mainly as relation to in-between games, you said that we're spacing 15 minutes before. Are we doing anything to ensure? What happens a lot of times is the coaches say be there 30 minutes early, and they'll have the kids doing some stretching and warm-up stuff. If we're saying we only have a 15-minute buffer, are we going to have a way of separating them? I know at the complex you could potentially put them like on the racquetball courts to do their warm-ups there, but you still have 4 teams of parents in the stands at one time, and there's not really that kind of room. How are we going to mitigate that transition? And are we asking for a limit of the number of spectators per each family?
We will monitor that with some monitors. Yeah, we've asked that parents in our fall sports limit it to, you know, the essential parent that needs to be there. Maybe it's 1, maybe it's 2. With it being indoors, that is a great point. That's something we're going to have to look at. You know, we want parents to come to support their kids, but we've got to be careful with our numbers and everything, especially the transition, people coming and going. So we'll try to monitor that. There might be some more gym space that we can look at to stretch teams out and things like that. Maybe, like you said, those racquetball courts or another area there. We're just trying to use one vocal in and out point and trying to keep the general public out of that hallway, walking up and down through there and passing people over at the Y as best we can. So we'll probably have some growing pains with that. We'll work through that. We might have to make some adjustments first couple weeks into season 1, and we'll make sure we continue to monitor that and look at that and do the best we can and with the amount of space that we have.
Yeah, I agree with the backdoor entrance. That's great. Maybe just one thing, if we ask the parents of the game coming in to remain outside or in their cars until they see all the participants from the game prior leave. That'll help. That way you've only got the players going in 30 minutes early, not the parents and siblings. So great job. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Bram? Thank you, Bram. We appreciate the work you do.
Thank you.
Information and discussion item number 2, refinancing of Revenue Bond Series 2015. Shantae Boulder.
Okay. We've been in discussions with our financial advisor. They made us aware of an opportunity for a cost savings by refunding one of our current notes, which is Revenue Bond Series 2015. We are currently paying our interest rate around 4.4%, and we see an opportunity to get that down to 2.4%. should we move forward with this? And again, that is based upon the times now and where the interest rates stand. And over the life of the loan, should we do this, we would be saving about $777,000, and it would bring a savings of about $49,000 per our annual debt service payment. And we wanted to see if council had any objection to us pursuing.
Big smile.
Initially, the conversation stemmed around two of our notes. One of them being the $35 million note that we have with the SRF, the Rural Infrastructure Bank. And we learned from them that they're going to be lowering their rate themselves to, based upon the times. So that note, we will not have to go through a refunding process. But we felt like it was good news on both sides in terms of where we stand with those particular notes. And we just wanted to get a feeling from council as to whether we can go ahead and pursue the refunding of Series 2015.
This is such happy news. I'd like for you to do it again next meeting. Call me every morning and tell me this.
Everything.
Yeah. It's so refreshing to hear something good. Yes. I think that's fantastic. And again, these things don't happen by just mistake. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of management. And Shantae, I love you.
Do we need to actually vote?
Not today.
No.
There will be ordinances that will come from this process that you will need to vote on.
Okay.
But today, we just wanted to get a consensus from you as to whether we pursue it.
All righty then.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great news.
Thank you. And our last discussion item for the day is the information on the reopening of municipal court. Davey, what you got for us?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. This entire agenda has been littered with COVID-19 issues. And so this is another item as well. So back in mid-March when all of the COVID-19 hit hard and we shut down our facilities to the public, our municipal court was one of those operations that we had to shut down. We have not stopped ticketing and in doing that, so we have a backlog now of cases that need to be put on a docket and worked off and get back to normal with that. So I've been working with Chief Helms and Judge Hobbs on a plan of action on how we could do that and meet all COVID guidelines while operating the municipal court. We're pleased to announce we feel that we can do that safely, basically using the same formula that we use here for public comments for town council meetings. We are dedicating just a certain number per date that comes in to take care of the dockets, and it's a manageable number that we can have them wait outdoors when the weather is good. In inclement weather situations, we'll have the opportunity to bring them into the lobby and space them out to meet all COVID guidelines as well. So, but we would only be allowing one defendant in the courtroom at one time. At the same time, we would be setting up the room based on COVID restrictions, utilizing plexiglass shielding to pay any fines to protect town staff. So with that, that is in order to get the ball rolling on this. Of course, the municipal court needs to send out letters informing defendants of their reopening and schedule of their court dates. And in lieu of that, the court is anticipated to begin on October 14th with our first session. And so with that, I'll be glad to entertain any questions you have on that matter.
I think this is something we must do. We are trying to follow in step with other municipalities that, you know, are wrangling with the same decisions we are. I think it's, I can't believe it's going to be October in a couple of days. And, you know, the fact that we were in shock initially in March with the pandemic, and then we got into the period of time where we were all still holding our breath, I think people are beginning to exhale a little bit, but the restrictions have not been lifted. Certainly the numbers are better from the standpoint of aggressive increases in numbers, but we're also entering into a really tough fall, winter season. I don't even like the sound of something called twindemic. I mean, my goodness. But I appreciate the effort into making this possible and remaining safe at the same time.
How quickly do we think we will catch up on the backlog we have? So we've got basically 6 months of backlog. How long will it take us to catch up? Do we know?
I believe Judge Hobbs may have referenced that in his letter.
I didn't see it in there, but I may have overlooked it.
We feel like we can get it caught up by the end of the year.
Okay.
So it'd be within the first quarter of
That'd be great.
That'd be great, yeah.
That
Yeah,
would be
I'd certainly
great.
love to see this year's cases handled this year. That'd be great.
You got one pen?
No? Not that I know of, do you? Second thing, I noticed, in there, and you mentioned it too, about payments and so forth. Do, defendants have the opportunity to make digital payments so that there is no cash being handed back and forth or checks being handed back and forth? Do we have an app that they can go to and make a payment through, or a way to do it digitally to less handoff?
Right now, we are part of the court administration system out of Columbia, who has a pay online system that people have access to, and that certainly is still available to them. Most of the payments that may be coming in could possibly be during court when there are decisions being made by the judge as people's cases are being resolved. But for those who do not care to come to court, they have the CMS system available to them to make their payments.
Okay, and I guess thankfully, not being in court on a regular basis, I'm not familiar with a lot of it. But I'm just thinking, if there's a QR code they could scan on the door and say, okay, here's your $50 or whatever it is, there's nothing that we could do at that time, the day that they're here in person, to do a digital payment?
Yes. That was part of the process that was discussed about opening court. The clerk of court will be situated in a space where she will be protected, and they will be allowed to even make their payment. The payment will be handed to an officer who will then hand it to the clerk of court in terms of in cash. Concerning the credit card payments, the court administration system is going to a new process that is being mandated by the state of South Carolina Revenue Office. So they will be using swipers that will be made available by the court administration system. And that process is in play right now in terms of them getting all of that made out. So when the person comes to court, the situation will look like the clerk of court can pull up the item, but the person will have to do their own swiping of their card.
Perfect.
What I do at Chick-fil-A.
I agree. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, again, the cash part of it, we now have an officer touching it, then we've got the clerk of court touching it, so we've actually added an extra touch in there by doing this. So, and so many people are paying digital anyway, and all the other things, so.
For the digital side of it, that will be the process.
Okay.
There will be no touching of the card except the customer swiping their own card.
Okay.
But the swiper will be situated where they can do that.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Awesome.
Good news.
Thank you. We appreciate the thoroughness always. Well, Mr. Huntley, so happy to see you today. You have anything for the good of the whole?
Yes, I'd like to comment on, I attend 3 or 4 meetings a month, virtually. Almost always there's an extraneous noise that comes in. And, I'll attend some of the meetings and they request, and I think we should do some extra speaking and mute your mic. It's not unusual to hear a dog barking right in the middle of a Bible study class.
Wanting to participate, right? Mr. Shirey,
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Helms, Mr. Cook.
I noticed on our Facebook page that we put some information out about stormwater credits and the ability to do that. I would like to ask staff at our next nightly meeting if we could do a presentation
On stormwater.
on that and just make it a little bit more understandable for people, and others who may not be on Facebook to see what is available on that stormwater credit, how they qualify and so forth. So I'd like to ask that. The other thing that I've noticed is a lot of farmers market posts and pictures and participation, but also a lot of concerns too, as that event grows in popularity, and we think we'll do even more so in the fall, that we evaluate where we currently have the setup and make sure that we're spacing the way we need to. I know we're adding the corn maze or hay maze and all of that, so let's just kind of review and make sure it doesn't get too big, given the current climate right now. So congratulations on success, but we may have to control success too.
Very, very successful. I
Yeah.
rode by several times on Saturday as I was working. I wish I were at the farmer's market instead,
Yeah.
but I was working, and people do seem to be enjoying it. So I think that's great.
That's good. That's a great point. And staff even last week had a meeting based on that same concern, with the growing numbers. So, on a weekly basis, we'll take a look at that. If we need to lay out the farmer's market a little differently based on the numbers that if they continue increasing, we'll address that. Yeah.
And I think we lost a little bit of the pomp and circumstance from the fire department open house and ribbon cutting, hose uncoupling event that we did. I've still not seen it on the Facebook page, even though it is on our town page. So if we can bring some attention to that, I think that's something very good. And so I want to be sure that people see it. So particularly now that we're through farmer's market and all the multiple posts from it, I think it'd be a good opportunity to make that live. Thank you.
Only thing I would like to comment on is elementary schools did go back full-time today. And I would like to ask our community to be a little more patient as you're driving through and in town. We have less traffic right now than we have, prior to COVID. But that doesn't mean that you can drive in the wrong lane to get around a car. You're impatient to wait to make a turn. I actually saw this in downtown Fort Mill. Someone that was second in line to turn onto Tom Hall jumped out of line, went around the car to get on Tom Hall, which is one of the busiest arteries in town. What a dangerous thing to do. I've seen people blow the horn. I saw a red light run down at CBS and Tom Hall. People, slow down. There's less traffic now than there was. Please be patient and kind and share the road in a good way, please.
Just leave a little earlier.
Leave a little earlier, yeah. And a lot of people aren't leaving home at all. They're working at home. So I just, it's not worth somebody's life or injury. I'm 64 and I've been late to places all my life and I'm still here. So, please use some caution and quit throwing trash out the window. All right, with that,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I got a motion, a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Thank you so much. Have a great week. This will end our meeting.